Suburban Sentinel here, along with Bella the camera cat. Every day, some American motorists are victimized by an organized band of well-armed crooks. They will force you to stop and steal your valuables, and sometimes take the car as well. Don't even think of fighting back, because these criminals have badges and the law on their side. They are cops. Many folks have never heard of civil asset forfeiture, and I sincerely hope that you will never have to go through this nightmarish debacle. You see, the United States and state constitutions are not exactly followed to the letter. It is sometimes perfectly legal for the authorities to grab your stuff and run like common thieves. Asset forfeiture is a quirk in American law. We all know that the government cannot, in theory, deprive us of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. But for decades, civil asset forfeiture has been and continues to be used and sometimes abused as an end run around fundamental rights. Civil asset forfeiture is a body of law that allows government authorities to impound almost any type of tangible property, such as cash, cars, boats, real estate, jewelry, livestock, without a hearing. Under both federal and state forfeiture laws, the government can, and sometimes does, seize property that they suspect has been used or is in some way connected to the commission of a crime. No trial, no conviction, not even a hearing. Now you're probably saying to yourself, but wait, that's not right. This is America. Well, right, wrong, or indifferent, civil asset forfeiture is real and it's legal. These laws were passed with the intent of depriving large criminal syndicates like the mafia and drug cartels of the money needed to continue their criminal enterprises. But over the years, the use of asset forfeiture has grown to prosecute and persecute individuals, and often they are completely innocent victims. The federal asset forfeiture laws are complex and the state laws vary in scope. However, the overall gist is that the government can, assuming the legal preconditions are met, take your property without a hearing. Now there are remedies. You can essentially sue to get your property back. Of course, doing so is not easy or cheap. You generally must hire a lawyer and go through the required hearing or hearings. Meanwhile, the government keeps your property until your case is resolved. If you lose the case, you lose your property. Simple as that. If you win, you can get your stuff back, but don't count on any compensation for your time, money, or lost use of your property. Today, I'm focusing on civil asset forfeiture with respect to use of a motor vehicle. Note that asset forfeiture laws apply in many other situations other than motorists. However, the use of public highways is one area where governmental authorities are increasingly abusing asset forfeiture laws. The reason for this is simple: money. Under the statutory schemes, money that the government collects or gets from the sale of non-cash assets, it keeps or shares among various agencies. Therefore, the government has a vested interest in taking your stuff to supplement their budgets. Motorists are easy targets for state and local authorities. It's easy to find probable cause to pull a driver over, namely a minor traffic violation. Plus, drivers are often carrying valuables, including but not limited to the car itself. People from outside the state are particularly vulnerable. They don't vote in that jurisdiction and are unlikely to have any political influence. In addition, it is generally more difficult for a quote-unquote foreign citizen to get their stuff back. They need to find a local lawyer, travel a substantial distance to the hearings, etc., etc. Moreover, asset forfeiture law abuse disproportionately affects minorities and people of modest means. Officers often profile minorities on the basis that they are more likely to be involved in criminal activity. Plus, many people who don't have the money to hire a lawyer, especially when the cops seize their cash or car or other valuables, don't have the resources to fight the seizure. So you're driving your car down the road far from home in another state. You're headed down to Wally's widget shop to pick up that pricey widget you've been wanting for years and finally saved up enough money to buy. The deal with Wally's is for cash, so you have your fat widget bankroll in your glove box. Your child is asleep in the car seat and you finally found a decent radio station. All is well. You pass a speed trap and oops, you're going 10 miles over the posted limit. You see the lights in the rearview mirror and pull over. The officer is cordial and seems to be sympathetic. He asks if it would be all right if he searched the car just to make sure that you aren't carrying any contraband. You figure, hey, I'm not doing anything wrong. I've got nothing to hide, so you tell him to go ahead. He proceeds to search the car and finds your widget bankroll. He asks what all the cash is for and you tell him. But he says he doesn't believe you. He thinks you are moving drugs and laundering drug money. You adamantly deny this and even offer to get Wally's widgets on the phone, but he doesn't want to hear it. The officer says he's going to seize your money and you vehemently object. But he then lays it on the line and hands you a single sheet of paper, a form he had been filling out while you were talking. He gives you a choice. Sign the paper giving the authorities permission to take your money and waiving your right to file a claim to get it back. Or he will seize the money anyway, seize the car as well, arrest you for drug trafficking or money laundering or both, and turn your kid over to state child protective services. The federal and state authorities collect hundreds of millions of dollars every year through civil asset forfeiture. It's a revenue stream that some authorities protect and sometimes promote. A traffic ticket might net the government a couple of $100s. But an asset forfeiture can net thousands of dollars with the same amount of effort. There have been a few victories in combating such abuse. And let me put this one up on the screen here. The small town of Tenahana, Texas, has just settled a class action highway robbery civil suit in which the plaintiffs had compelling evidence that passing motorists were shaken down to the tune of $1 million a year by way of civil asset forfeiture. But overall, civil asset forfeiture abuse is alive and well. It should be no surprise that governments are fighting to keep the forfeiture laws in place. There is a lot of money at stake. Of course, we should voice our opinions to our applicable federal and state representatives about this ugly abuse of our civil rights. But in addition, motorists can take precautions. I live in the New York City metropolitan area and frequently cross state lines. When out of state, I drive by the book so as to not give the law any reason to stop me. And of course, that's no guarantee something won't happen, but it's an ounce of prevention. Second, I don't carry large amounts of valuables. If I have to transfer valuable goods, I will ship them by common carrier or use a courier service. If I'm driving out of my quote-unquote comfort zone, loosely defined as more than 300 miles away, I leave my vehicle at home and rent a car. So if the police want to seize the car, that's fine with me. They can deal with the Hertz Corporation's army of lawyers who'll spend the next 5 years stuffing the forfeiture statutes up their rear ends. Probably the biggest issue I have is carrying cash. If I have an expensive item to pay for out of state, I will bring a bank check or wire the funds to the seller's bank in advance. However, I also think it's important to have plenty of cash on hand when traveling in case of emergency, but I don't want to look suspicious, and I certainly wouldn't want to lose it. If I'm far from home and traveling by car, I try to carry a couple of $1,000s, but I will hide most of it really well in my luggage. In addition, I never consent to a vehicle search. If the officer threatens to detain me further unless I give consent, I tell him to go ahead and get a warrant or do whatever he's got to do, and I will be happy to wait. I had plenty of time. This is probably as much hassle for the officer as it is for me. Note that I am not fear-mongering. It's not like this happens to every third driver on the roadways, or that half of the cops out there are out to get you. However, forfeiture abuse is sufficiently prevalent, and the potential consequences can be so severe that, in my opinion, precautions are warranted. I certainly am not saying don't drive. I think we should all live our lives to the best of our ability. But again, we can take simple precautions. As a law-abiding American, it makes me sad and angry that I have to worry about unjustly losing my property to a corrupt or overreaching government. But I have to live in the world that is, not the one that should be. So, thanks for watching. This is the Suburban Sentinel, along with Bella the Camera Cat. Please thumbs up and subscribe if you like what you see. Drive safely, everybody.